We've all heard the horror stories, right? Huge projects, millions of dollars over budget, just years behind schedule. Well, today, we're going to get into the single biggest reason these big initiatives fail. And here's a spoiler. It has almost nothing to do with the actual work. The real secret to success is decided long before anyone writes a single line of code. It's the question that keeps executives up at night. I mean, you invest all this money, you get these massive teams together, so why do so many of these huge transformation projects still crash and burn? The answer is usually hiding in plain sight, right at the very, very beginning. Because the most expensive mistakes, the ones that blow up the budget and push back deadlines, they're almost always baked in from day one. The seeds of failure are planted way before the project officially kicks off, simply because there wasn't a solid plan. So, before we get to the fix, let's just take a second to appreciate how big this problem really is. Rushing into a massive project without a blueprint isn't just a little risky. It's practically asking for trouble. Think about it this way. You'd never, ever try to build a skyscraper without a detailed blueprint, right? You'd check the soil, you'd calculate the stress on every beam, you'd plan every single floor. And yet, for some reason, when it comes to massive, complex digital projects, that same discipline just gets tossed aside in a hurry to start doing the real work. And you know what happens next? The consequences are, well, painfully predictable. You get scope creep, where the project just keeps growing and growing. Teams aren't on the same page, budgets spiral out of control, and you get serious pushback from employees. You hit all these technical roadblocks that you really should have seen coming, and you miss out on huge opportunities to actually make the business better. So, how do you avoid all that chaos? Well, you do exactly what a master architect would do. You spend serious, quality time on the blueprint. In the tech world, we call this essential stage Phase 0. Phase 0 is that super critical, but so often skipped, prep stage. And let's be clear, this is purely about strategy. We're not talking about code or servers here. This is all about clarifying what you're trying to achieve, figuring out if your company is actually ready for this change, and building a business case that's absolutely rock solid, all before you spend the big bucks. And this whole blueprint phase really boils down to 3 core steps. First up is exploration. This is where you really dig deep into how things work right now to spot the real opportunities. Then comes preparation, where you check if you have the right people and the right resources to pull this off. And finally, you have planning, where you actually build that detailed roadmap that's going to guide the entire project from start to finish. Now, I know what you might be thinking. This sounds like a delay. Can't we just get started? But here's the thing. Investing in Phase 0 isn't a cost. It's an investment. And the return on that investment is massive. The business case for doing this is just incredibly strong. Let's talk real numbers for a second. $500,000. That is how much one company saved by spending just 8 weeks in Phase 0. They found a huge integration problem on paper before a single developer started working on it. Think of the headache and the money they saved just by doing their homework. And here's the part that sounds kind of crazy, but is absolutely true. All this upfront planning actually accelerates the project. By getting everyone aligned and making the tough decisions early, companies are finding they can cut the total project time by 3 to 6 months. Why? Because when you finally start building, everything is so much smoother, with way fewer surprises. But the payoff isn't just about time and money. It's about people. Because look, a project's real success is whether or not people actually use the thing you built. And by getting buy-in and planning for the human side of change during Phase 0, organizations are seeing user adoption rates that are a staggering 30% higher. That's the difference between a tool people love and a tool that just collects dust. Okay, so what does this blueprint phase actually look like? What are people doing? Let's peel back the curtain a little bit and look at the key activities. First things first, you have to remember this is not a technical meeting. This is a business strategy session, period. You're there to answer the big, fundamental questions. The why are we doing this, what does success look like, and how will we get there? That will define everything that follows. A perfect example of a huge Phase 0 decision is the whole greenfield versus brownfield thing. So, do you start completely fresh with a clean slate and redesign everything? Or do you upgrade what you already have, which is usually faster, but you might just be paving over old problems? See? This isn't a tech choice. It's a core strategic decision that affects the entire project. This phase is also where you build that bulletproof business case to actually get the funding. It's where you draw really firm lines in the sand about what the project is And just as importantly, what it is not, to prevent that scope creep later. And you set up the rules of the road. Who gets to make the final call on decisions, which is absolutely vital for preventing chaos down the line. All right, let's bring it all home. It's time to stop thinking about planning as some kind of annoying hurdle to get over. We need to start seeing it for what it really is, a core part of your strategy. This quote just nails it. Planning is not a delay, it's a velocity engine. The time you put into phase 0 isn't slowing you down. It's the careful tuning that allows the rest of the project to move at an incredible speed, with confidence and with purpose. Ultimately, when you tackle things like scope and alignment and risk right at the beginning, you're doing more than just de-risking the project. You're actually turning those potential failures into your biggest strengths, making sure that what you build really pushes the business forward. And that really just leaves us with one final thought. As you look at the next huge project coming down the pike, you got to ask yourself, are you rushing to just start laying bricks? Or are you taking the time to perfect the blueprint first? Because that answer is pretty much going to define whether you succeed or fail.